Well, hello, everyone. I hope that you are doing well today. It is great to be with you. I am really excited about today's topic. I am Kristen Hammett. You are familiar with my voice, and today you get to see my face as well. So we are trying to do a dual video, and hopefully we will do that successfully. So I am really excited about today's topic. I know that it is May and life is hectic. So thanks so much for making the effort to join us today to learn more about ministry, messaging, and marketing. Our goal here at the Signatory Ministry Services is to equip you in your development efforts and to partner with you. As you develop donor relationships, you can view us as a key resource for training, community, and partnership when you work with your donors. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to remind you of a few things. First, please engage with us on Facebook. Join our Ministry Services Facebook group. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Not only do we want to bring you valuable information here on these webinars, but it is always our goal to continue that conversation both on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I'm confident that we are providing valuable tools and resources along the way. So as a reminder, this is not just a presentation. I really strive for our webinars to be a conversation more than a presentation. So as you have questions today, go down to that bottom of the toolbar, that Q&A tab, type in your question, and then I will facilitate those throughout our presentation today as Brian is sharing. All right, so now for today's topic, marketing. I don't know about you, but it can be a little intimidating. Along with technology, I'm not sure there is an industry that has seen more change over the course of the last few years. There has been a lot of change, and that is why we are so fortunate today to have not only someone who is passionate about the work that you do, but someone who is an expert in the field of marketing. Brian Boyd is a consultant and marketing specialist. He has co-founded a media company. He has done a lot of social media work, and he actually currently has just changed roles, and he'll get to share a little bit more about that. But he has 30 years of experience in business and IT. He has done a lot of work in digital media, marketing trends, and created a lot of strategies that have been very successful for a variety of different customers. He has worked with select clients like Museum of the Bible, Hobby Lobby, Joel Osteen Ministries, Oral Roberts University, and Harvest House Publishing. He has a book called Social Media for the Executive, How to Maximize and Monetize Your Business. And I know he recently is now, I believe, and Brian, you can share more about this in a moment, but the EVP of North America for Wings Brand Activations USA, global company doing some exciting work. So that is an impressive resume, Brian. Thanks so much for carving out some time today to share from your experience and your expertise. Welcome to the Signatory webinar.
Thanks, Kristen. I don't even know who you're talking about there. That doesn't make any sense at all. My mom is very thankful for that intro, by the way.
Right.
Thanks, Mom, for joining in today. And I wanted to say thank you to Kristen for organizing this, and to Bill High for his always answering the phone when I call. And Kristen has been diligent in keeping me on time and on budget for this day. And as I get easily distracted, squirrel. So thankful for that today. And I'm really grateful for you all for attending. I do have a real passion for marketing and technology, and ironically, faith and nonprofits. So I'll share a little bit about that in the next little while. And please submit questions along the way. Like Kristen said, she'll do her stuff and get them to me, and we'll talk along the way. No reason to wait till the end, right, Kristen? We can just do them throughout the presentation today.
That's right. Absolutely.
So great. Let me skip over here, do this. I should have switched it already. Sorry about that, Kristen. I'm a little late.
We're good.
So, hey, here's who I am. As Kristen mentioned, I'm currently the executive vice president of North America for a global marketing company called Wings Brand Activations. They're headquartered out of Bangalore, India. I don't know if many of you have been to India or work in India. I'd love to know. Let us know, because I've got a real passion and a heart for India. And Wings Activations is in 8 countries with a little over 8,000 full-time W-2 employees. And just this quarter has decided to enter into the U.S. market. And so I'm heading that up. The CEO and I just finished a 2-week road trip around the United States, visiting friends in Houston, D.C., Colorado Springs, what up? And Washington, D.C., New York, and Miami. So we've had a great time. Prior to this, I was actually the founder and owner, along with my wife, Fran, of Media Connect Partners. We developed digital media strategy for a lot of corporations and nonprofits. I told God one day when we started the company, I said, I don't want to work for nonprofits. And then he said, how about you only work for nonprofits? I said, okay, whatever you say. So Joel Osteen was one of our first clients, and that opened the door for a lot of other great partnerships throughout the years. I was at Joel Osteen's offices last week, and the CEO said, Brian, you started with us when we had 3 followers, and now we've got 28 million. And it's really true. We had a great time working with them. A couple of things, just ancillary data. My wife and I lived about a block from World Trade Center 9/11, and went through that. We saw how God worked in our lives there, and brought us through. It's a fascinating story of trusting Him when you wake up and you don't go home that day for 4 months. It's amazing. 2 kids. My son and daughter both live in New York City. Son works for Standard & Poor's as a software engineer. And my daughter is in the marketing department of Verizon. She actually works for the chief marketing officer of Verizon at headquarters. I'm very proud of her and being in the marketing world. And she's in charge of agency relationships. So if you know any agencies that want to work with Verizon, they have to go through my daughter, which means you have to be nice to me. So that's how that works. I love technology, and I'm a runner. And there's a couple pictures. In January, my wife and I finished the Mumbai Marathon in Mumbai. It was quite, Kristen knows that it was quite the challenge with the air and everything, but it's, when it comes to business, it teaches you a lot about business, about setting goals and sticking with things. And I think there's a lot of cross pollination between the two. So I think that's something about me. So it's interesting. So I think as we start off this 88 slide journey, it's not true. It's only 12 slides. I want to focus on relationships. We'll talk about other things too in the next 30 minutes or so, but it's really about relationships. In fact, a lot of us use the term ROI for return on investment. I'd challenge you that ROR, return on relationship, is equally as important. Now, your CFO is definitely interested in ROI, but think about the relationship. The shots you see here are from a Joel Osteen event in Chicago. And we worked with the ministry to produce all of the digital and marketing inside the stadium and outside the stadium for his Night of Hope events. I'm sure some of you have probably been to one. And the idea was to make everybody outside the stadium feel like they were sitting in the stadium. And so we employed several tactics to make that happen. But we wanted to help people feel engaged, not that they're watching TV. But that they're engaged. So it's too much to go into, but if you think about watching your church online, sometimes as you watch church online, you feel like you're eavesdropping. And I would challenge you that employ some tactics to engage the audience so they feel like they're part of the service. People consume services a bunch of different ways nowadays. Online is an equal way to consume church, to be part of that. So relationships, as we go through the next 2 slides, think about how relationships work. And I've got a couple of case studies to actually give you real tactical data on that as we go ahead. So let's talk about your marketing plan briefly. And clearly we can't get into everything today, but there's 3 main components in this little Venn diagram here. There's a traditional PR, which is TV appearances, press releases, newspaper articles, And we call that above the line, ATL. Digital PR is social media, Google AdWords, LinkedIn. I do follow Kristen on LinkedIn, and she's always putting out great stuff. So I would encourage you to follow Kristen on LinkedIn. But that's through the line, that's TTL. Then there's experiential, which we call below the line. And below the line marketing, think about those in-person events where you are experiencing a brand face to face. In fact, our CEO calls it Bible, before I buy live experience. Before I buy live experience. So I think, I don't know if there's anybody from Compassion on, or I believe it's Compassion, but I know that they've got a van that kind of a semi truck that drives around where you can experience what it's like to be in a third world country. You're nodding your head, Kristen, so I guess I'm pretty close.
Yeah, I was just going to add, yes, Brian, I'm familiar with that concept. And I think there's several ministries that have something similar to that, larger scale ministries.
Right. So that's it. You're actually experiencing the brand. So that's an example of below the line. And I'll give an example of that. So think about your marketing in all three of those quadrants. And if you look in the middle of the Venn diagram there, that's what I call measurable outcome. Someone in your organization, whether it be your C-levels or your donors, are going to want to know, what are we getting for our investment? And so it's always important to measure everything you do and measure that outcome. What does it cost per lead? What's the cost per sale? What's a customer's acquisition cost? What are click-throughs costing? How many, maybe it's salvations is a measurable outcome. Whatever those measurable outcomes are, in each of these quadrants, it's important to have some sort of metric so you can measure that. So as you develop tactics and marketing, don't forget to think about how you measure that. What's our measurable piece for that, so you can actually validate that what we're doing is correct. And I'll give you an example here. So if you think about in each of those quadrants, break it down into these five segments. You've got a goal, and you think your goal is, let's say, email signups. Let's just use something simple to talk about. So you create a strategy or a tactic to get email signups. Let's say that's a landing page with some sort of value, like you sign up, you get a free book or a free widget or something. So you employ that, and then you interact and you listen and you validate that that's working. So you see how it's going. The ROI is more of a making sure you have tactics to measure that, so we can measure those email signups. And of course, measurement is the next box. So we're measuring it, and as we see what's happening, we make changes to it to validate that it's working, and then we start over again. So it's always kind of in that circle. I could have actually labeled that a little better. But the idea is you deploy a tactic, you execute on it, you measure in real time, or you measure as you can, then you take lessons learned and you go around the circle again. So that way you're not throwing a bunch of money at something and not seeing results that are important. Think about trials and focus groups. If you can deploy something in a small scale, measure it, and then extrapolate it out, that's a better way to do things. Whether it be AdWords, so many people throw a lot of money at that. Start with a small test and see where you're going, and then you can throw more money at it and expand on that as you see results. So that's the idea: is don't forget to start small and make those rotations. I want to talk about audience just for a second. This is actually my cousin. His name is David Boyd, and he currently lives in Vancouver, British Columbia. But he's part of the fellowship organization that puts on the President's Prayer Breakfast every February. And so him and my other cousin, Dick Foth, are instrumental in working on the senior team of the President's Prayer Breakfast, where every president since, was it Eisenhower, has been to every year. So I asked him recently, how do you reach your audience? Again, going back to relationships, what are ways you can really reach your audience? And he said, well, let's talk about audiences. So listen to it's only about 60 seconds long. Listen to what he says about audiences and see if this relates to you guys.
Well, I mean, you can approach this from the technology side, or you can approach it from the recipient side. So back to your ORU experience, their donor base were my parents, okay, and your mom and dad or grandparents who never turned on a computer, and they lived in a certain part of the country, probably, and those people gave to a name, just to a name, without asking a question. Generally, they weren't really concerned about results or impact. My generation is given to projects that we had some kind of personal connection with.
Right.
My children's generation give to causal issues. So they won't necessarily give to starving babies, but they will give to organizations that are addressing why babies are starving.
Right.
And because of that focus, they want to see measurable impact. And they want to both hear in our stories are necessary, but they want to hear in our stories and see in our metrics that there's actual change taking place.
Okay.
Hopefully that made sense. So as you think about who you're trying to reach, you may have multiple demographics. As you said there, when Oral Roberts would send a letter out, my dad would write a check and it would go back to Oral Roberts Ministries. Today, my 27-year-old daughter wants to know what kind of things are you putting in place to fix the problems that are out there. And by the way, show me in real time on Instagram how you're doing that. Right? What a change. So your organization may cross several of those demos, which means your marketing has to be adaptable and reach each of those demos. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. I see nodding heads. That's good.
Yeah, I think, Brian, you just made a great point, and that is something that we have talked about on our Facebook group a little bit, and that's segmenting your donors. So you're going to have people engage with you in different avenues and with different messages. So I think it's really important, not only that you're setting up, there's not a one-size-fits-all marketing strategy, right? So we need to make sure that we're setting up metrics and measurements for each of those different efforts. And then kind of testing to see where it's most impactful and where you're getting that return.
It's true. Email doesn't work for everyone. Post-to-mail doesn't work for everyone. Targeted ads doesn't. You really, it's almost more difficult, isn't it, today? You need to, and your marketing dollar only goes so far. So think wisely. Unfortunately, I know of a church that I won't say, but they just lost $75,000 in a web development company that didn't deliver their website. And so, it's just the vendors, the partners you work with. If you're working out of house or in house, just make sure you vet them out and you check the references and you just make sure you're working with quality people. Because I always felt bad when I ran my agency. Even now, I feel like there's a donor out there, maybe a widow or someone who's sent $15 into your nonprofit, and then you take that $15 and you just throw it out the window at a Google ad that does nothing. That's a little bit extreme, possibly, but I actually do feel that. And so there's ways to carefully implement your marketing plan across all those channels and test it, and just before you waste time, resources, or money on that. But David talked about those three audiences, and I wanted you all to hear that for a second. So let's get into a couple case studies. The first one is Andrew Wommack Ministries, and I really enjoy working with Andrew. I had a chance to go up there a week and a half ago and spend some time in their new headquarters in Colorado Springs, which got crazy snow yesterday. What's up with that, right? But we were having a lunch with Andrew and a couple executives, and we were talking about expanding his donor base. And just take this, and if it works for you, you can rip it off, of course. But they do a lot of ad buys on TV. and they have other areas of marketing. But I was concerned about relationships. And I said, what if we deployed a tactic, Andrew, that was only relationship driven and had no calls to action whatsoever as far as sales? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, what about a live Bible study? And I was thinking about our live Joel Osteen events. I showed the picture earlier. And so it kind of grew from that. So what we developed is every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can tune in tonight. Today's Tuesday. Oh, well, how did Tuesday get here?
Well timed, Brian. Well timed.
Yeah. But tonight, if you'd like to watch it, you can watch it. But and this is the structure: 45-minute Bible study, live right at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And there's a couple minutes of announcements at the beginning, but that's his moderator on the left there of your screen. And then he just jumps into the Bible, and he actually comes up with it like moments before. I never ask him, what are we talking about tonight? And he's like, I don't know yet, Brian. I'm trying to figure that out. So Bible study for 20 minutes, then about 15 minutes of live Q&A from all across the internet, and then a close. And so this is how it works. The announcer comes on, she introduces, and she says, hey, you know what? We want to make sure that you get Andrew's notes tonight. So if you just go to awmi.net/Bible study, give us your email address. And when we're finished tonight, Andrew will send you his notes. Just no obligation. We'll send you all his Bible stuff. Then Andrew usually says, yeah, I got all these notes here. I got notes. I possibly can't get through this all in 20 minutes. So I'm going to send these to you. And sure enough, people go and they sign up, and he sends out his Bible study notes the next day. He finishes the Bible part, then we do live Q&A, which we set up an application on that little iPad you see there, where we cull comments from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the website, everywhere where it airs live. And we clean those comments up, get rid of the ones that are off topic or don't apply, display them on the iPad, then they self-select which ones they want to answer. And so we can say, hey, this is from Kristen. Kristen wants to know, why is it snowing in Colorado? Whatever it is. And so he looks right at the camera and says, hey, Kristen, I want to talk to you about snow. It's cold, it's white, it falls from the sky. And so there's a one-on-one, do you feel that relationship? So he builds a relationship with the audience. And then he says, don't forget, I want to send you my Bible study notes. Go to da-da-da. Of course, all you marketers know what happens is when they go sign up for the Bible study notes, of course, they're opted in for all the other communications. Although I know the number, I really can't tell you how many people have email addresses have been acquired, but it's been very profitable. So this is a way of no selling, but just giving away value, building relationship, and it's a little bit of an ask for him to come on every Tuesday night. He does sub out sometimes and have somebody else come in, but that's worked out really well. Hopefully that makes sense. And it's still going. It was a 3-month test 2 years ago, and it's still going every Tuesday night live. So it's been wow. This is more of an activation example. And you can actually Google it and learn about this. This relates to my current engagement with Wings in India. Wings brand activation is that below the line quadrant in the Venn diagram from earlier in the event here. And it's getting people to experience a brand and try it. So think about that compassion trailer, or think about other ways that people can experience your brand, like at a one-on-one effort. So Kellogg said, this is about 12 years ago, actually now, said we want to enter the Indian space. There's at that time probably 1 billion people. There's 1.3 billion people in India right now. And guess what? India doesn't eat cereal. They don't eat cereal. They have chapati and rice and different things and things I can't pronounce. But Kellogg's Rice Krispies is not part of their diet. And so Kellogg's hired Wings, my company, to help them figure out a way to activate cereal in India. Wings put together a program that started off in the schools, and I do know that they changed the recipes and the flavorings and stuff to fit the culture. It wasn't trying to shove something down their throat that wasn't part of their culture. That's a different conversation. But through education in the schools, getting samples given out, giving classes about nutrition, this is all marketing. They were able to implement Kellogg's in India, and currently Kellogg's has a 70% market share of breakfast cereals in India, and as I understand it, sell more cereal in India than anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
So marketing for this point was brand activation, and so you may think that brand activation is a new term. It really, it really goes back a long ways. It's just that today we're calling it experiential or activation, but it's getting in front of that client, that end user, and having them experience, who you are. There's a Bible app, not the Bible app, but there is a Bible app that equally wanted to reach the 1.3 billion Indians. And so we deployed people in 588 cities across India to walk people through how to use the app. And because most of when you use something for 40 days, it becomes a habit, something like that. When you use it, we developed a series of trivia and games and quizzes and stuff to keep people engaged with the app for 40 days so they would continue to use it. And that was another example of activation at that point. So that's a activation example. Also, the last bullet, iteration execution. You can also do trials with this. You can start in one city or one place, do a small trial, and measure the results, and then extrapolate it out as you see success.
So Brian, can we sit here for a second?
Yeah.
Though you, marketing guru, don't necessarily call brand activation a new term, I Googled it last week when you said it. I had never heard it before. It does make sense. It's really experiential learning, or exposure. I wonder if you have any suggestions for our smaller nonprofits who don't have the funds to do a compassion trailer and travel the world. There may be a local ministry or a regional ministry. What do you recommend? Because my guess is this does not necessarily have to be a real high spend relative to just getting them involved and experiencing. Any recommendations there?
I don't know that I have a good answer, Kristen. It's think about how an end user or a consumer can get engaged. I mean, it's not really a good example. I mean, if you think of a church startup or a church plant, I've seen church plants, small ones that are meeting in schools, out on corners, handing out breath mints and with a card attached to it that says, "Come visit us Sunday at 9:30 a.m. at PS 89." Right. I mean, that's an example of activation. Or donating your time at a local food bank or something, or having a car wash, or again, these aren't the best ideas, but they're free.
Well, it's interesting. As you started talking, I was thinking, I've seen kind of refugee camp or refugee experiences pop up. And other types. So I think if I just take this for a second, those that are listening are engaged and thinking, this is out of my league. You've got Kellogg's, you've talked about compassion. I don't have that kind of budget. Think about what your cause is. What problem are you trying to solve?
Right.
And then just spend a little time thinking, how do I expose people in an experiential environment? More what that feels like, what that looks like, how that help them touch and feel and experience. I think in some cases it can even just be opening up your facility and kind of role playing through little tours and things. So, or you can do that via video and post it online. How many of your donors are actually going to come to your place of business or where you operate? So I think there are different ways that you can engage and potentially reach those different target markets like you were talking about earlier.
This is it right here. What we're doing right now, Kristen, is example. We've got 28 people who are participating right now, and we're actually we're talking to each other. Anna, Ann, Barnabas, Ben, Brady, Carla, Caroline, Greg, Joel, Justin, Katie, Stephen, Ron, Phil. I see you. So we're having, you're actually touching and feeling we're having a conversation. I know a pastor in Seattle that every Saturday does a live Facebook Live. And he just says, hey, this is how my week went. And he takes questions and he talks to people, and you can actually physically interact with them. That's a form of activation. Yeah. So anything that's not mass media, I think, is that. And oftentimes you never know how that's going to explode in your favor, I guess. So yeah,
I like that.
I just want to open up the dialogue and have people think about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's great.
The next case study is also Andrew Wommack, and a similar thing. We were sitting and talking about the cost of airtime. And this is affordable for many people of all sizes. And he said, Brian, I'm spending X amount of dollars every month on airtime. What's interesting too is my program is bookmarked, or is that the right bookmarked? That's not the right word. I missed the word, Kristen, but it's in between other programmers who may not have the same theology I have, right? So at 11 o'clock it's X, at 11:30 it's Andrew, at 12 o'clock it's someone else, and they may not even fit. So it doesn't work. In this case, he had tons of content. And so we created a 24-hour digital TV network, which is live now at gospeltruth.tv. And gospeltruth.tv plays an HD stream 24 hours a day with a programming guide. You can see it along the bottom there. I'm not sure if my mouse actually shows up or not, but
it does.
The programming guide right here. And then we've got ad space on the right. This is a rotating ad space here, so that programmers can buy ad time, or Andrew himself can buy ad time, and you can watch along and see this ad space. Plus, we did a neat thing here where if you click radio, it plays an audio only stream for those who are bandwidth constrained. So if you're in a third world or a part of the world where you don't have good bandwidth, you can listen to the audio portion alone and not watch it. And so this allows him to have a program, basically a TV network that airs 24 hours a day, where again, he just gives a lot of value, and there's not a whole lot of ask, but it's a place that people can come, and no matter what time of day or night, they get a certain kind of content. So whether you're a realtor, or if you are a ministry, or if you sell healthy oils that you put on your body, something like that, you could actually create something like this at a low cost and have a content area for people to go to. You can also do the same on YouTube, of course, but then you have other branding happening. This way, it's all white labeled just for this ministry. That's the reason we did this way. So, gospeltruth.tv. And this, I just wanted to quickly touch on this. This covers a couple different areas. One, this covers brand activation. It also covers influencer marketing, which I know a lot of you have heard the term influencer marketing. Many of you probably follow Instagram folks who will be drinking water, and the label's just like, hey, it's mountain water, and they're really promoting the water, right? Because they have 100,000 followers. But this was last November in Lower Manhattan. Anybody from New York on the call? In Soho, near Spring Street, I want to say. Verizon actually launched a new cell phone brand called Visible. And Visible is a prepaid cell phone company, similar to I guess, is Cricket maybe a prepaid company? Right. So $40 a month, all you can eat, and you just month-to-month relationship. And so they built a phone shop, which is here, which looks like a phone repair store. But when you walk in, you realize it's not really a phone repair store. It's actually a Instagram pop-up event. And there were 6 or 7 different rooms inside where you could take pictures. This bottom right one is actually, I flipped the picture upside down, because when you walk in, it's actually the other way. So this picture you're looking at is actually turned upside down. Yeah. So I'm actually standing on the ceiling. If everybody could pick up their computers and turn them around right now. And so they had 5 rooms where they had photos where you could take pictures and Instagram it with the hashtags, of course. And then this room over here is another room. It was full of these fluorescent lights where you could stand behind them, and the lighting was just incredible. And this is one of my favorite pictures of all time that my daughter took of me. Not because it's who the character is in it, but the lighting was really good. So really kind of fun lighting. And the object is to take a lot of photos, get them out on Instagram, and spread the word. If you actually do an Instagram search for Visible NYC, you'll see tens of thousands of photos that went out. But what they did also is on the influencer side is Visible worked with a couple different agencies to bring in high-profile influencers, DJs, music people, just model-y type people with big followings, and they brought them in and ran them through the circuit. And the last room, it doesn't apply to many of us, but they had like a DJ and open bar and things like that to make it a real fun experience at the end of this pop-up. So it combined experiential with influencer, with activation, and all going out on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So it's a really great case study. I really enjoyed it. I went through it 2 or 3 times, and because my daughter works for Verizon, we skipped the big line and went right to the front. It was really nice.
Yeah,
so.
Nice. Perks, right? Hey,
Perks.
Brian, so it's interesting. I've had a couple of questions come up about, small budgets, and then how do I really mobilize my volunteers and board? And I wonder if this is part of the answer, right? So no matter what experience we're giving them, no matter what they are doing from a donor perspective relative to our organization, are we empowering them? Are we giving them opportunities to be visible, to influence and impact through their social media profiles? I think sometimes we just have to ask them to do it, right? We have to remind them. People are busy. So if we provide them with the hashtag and the steps or the photo op, that's a very low budget way to get some traction in social media. Any tips there?
Well, you hit on one, which is you have to ask. I've 8 years ago in our company, we had to remind our staff. We ended up we had about 30 people working for us, and you have to ask. People don't do it unless you ask. So please share, please follow. Please use the hashtag. You could offer some other value. I know an author right now who has a new book out who on his Instagram says, if you comment and use the hashtag, I'll choose someone and send a free book. And so there could be some incentive. What was the other thing you just said though? How easy budget. So anybody been to Disney World recently? Anyone? There's a purple wall as you enter Disney World at Magic Kingdom in Florida. As you enter Magic Kingdom, you go through the little entryway there, and you make a right into Future World. There's a purple wall there that everyone stands in front of and takes pictures because it's a cool shade of purple. The lighting's perfect, and it's one of the top photo places in Disney World. If you Google purple wall Disney, your head will explode. I guarantee it. There's a few other walls like that in Disney too, but it's just the wall. And Purple Wall has its own Instagram page. It's so popular right now. Yeah. So in your church lobby, in your I know Open Doors in Orange County has an area you can take pictures out, and they have like you feel like you're with Brother Andrew in the lobby there. It's very easy to set up something where people just gravitate, and this is kind of one of the hottest things now. I mean, there's lots of trends, but Instagram opportunities is kind of really, really hot right now. Yeah. And so whether it's an upside down room or just a great pattern on a wall, or if, I've seen the frame's a little overused. There's the frames people do, yes. But that's a very economical way to generate awareness and at very little cost. It really is one of the hottest things right now.
I was just going to say, not to layer on, so I want to say 2 things. Kansas City, I live in Kansas City. There are murals across Kansas City.
Yeah.
Are really, I have 2 teenage daughters, and that is a big thing for not only them, but, families with young kids do the same thing. They go seek out, there's a website devoted to where these walls are. They go seek them
Yeah.
out, their pictures, and they post. So I think you're right. I guess I'm just kind of piling on. Yes, it's certainly a trend. I think here's the thing I want nonprofit leaders to hear. This is not detracting from your cause. So I know in the seat that you're sitting in, you may think, yes, but I have hungry people to feed, or I have babies to save, or the gospel to translate. You are exactly right. But if you are trying to engage donors in your cause, this is one way to do it. It's really leveraging the people that are already champions of your cause and giving them an opportunity to tell other people. So I don't think it detracts, it builds. It's a piece of the pie. It's a piece of the puzzle. So I think sometimes we look at, to your point, Brian, earlier, we're all about ROI. Well, guess what? There really is some ROI and ROR involved here, because we're leveraging the relationships of our donors as they influence those around them. So,
Yeah.
that's just really a good point.
And just for discussion purposes, here's the purple wall.
There you go.
There you go. That was fat, Brian.
The webinar could not be complete without seeing Brian standing in front of the Disney purple wall.
That's a mistake. This is my beautiful wife.
There we go.
Okay.
Brian on the purple wall.
So that's that. I think we're going to wind up with a couple just tactical tool ideas. Okay, so this is great. How do we publish on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook? How do we keep things consistent? How do we get approvals? I love this tool, and I'd encourage everyone to go check it out, heyorca.com. Joe is the CEO and founder of the company. And when they were just starting the company, Joe and I ran into each other somewhere, and I was looking for a tool to do all of Joel Osteen's social media scheduled posts. And they were just beginning the tool, so we actually helped him create the tool. It's a SaaS tool. It's in the cloud, and so when they implement a change, all the audience gets it, right, like a typical SaaS product. So we helped them in a real scalable way implement this product and roll it out. So the neat thing about it is you can this is kind of the workflow. I stole this from their website. But in the cloud, you can create your strategy for your social media posts. Your copywriter can create all the content for those posts. Your graphics person, maybe the same person, right, can add the graphic elements to it. Your account manager, again, this may be all one person, and it can schedule everything. And then in the scheduling cloud, the client, whoever the client is, can approve it in the cloud. And that way you're not sending a Word document somewhere saying, hey, look at these Twitter posts. Do you approve them? What happens is you send a link to the client, and the client may be your boss, right, or something. And they can, in the cloud, say yes, no, no, I'd change this. And if they say yes, it goes off of scheduling automatically. And then you go home early. So it's a neat tool. Take a look at it. The analytics are really good. The reporting is amazing. And it starts at a reasonable $299, and they have different pricing for different levels and stuff. So take a look at that. You'll really like it. And again, I know major NGOs and nonprofits who use this tool, and the tweets and stuff you've seen today have come out of this tool. So take a look at that. The next one that I really just love, this is my secret weapon, is something called Rebrandly. But these tweets are as fresh as yesterday's headlines. But if you look here, Victoria Osteen has a tweet, and you can get her blog by going to victoria.osteen.co. And if you want to read Joel's thing, you go to c.osteen.co. So a lot of brands use Bitly or actually put the big long URLs there. When you use something like Rebrandly, you can actually register your own short URL. Let's say it's, Kristen.com. And then Kristen.com becomes your URL for all of your stuff you use everywhere on the internet. That way, when people see your URLs, it's also branded for you, as opposed to somebody else's branding. Does that make sense?
It does.
So every link that Joel has his name in it. It's OSTI. It doesn't say bit.ly or TURL or short. It has his name. So for all of less than $10, you can go get yourself a short domain, a short URL that works for you. Mine is called GoBrian. So gobrian.co is the one I use when I put stuff out. And then you can use that for all your short. And Rebrandly allows you to put the long URL in for whatever it is, and it automatically makes it short and has your name in it, if that makes sense. There's a case study here. Charis Bible College is part of the WOMAC organization up in Colorado Springs. A year and a half ago or so, there was a campus day where we were encouraging all of the campuses around the world to participate in this event. And so we created short URLs unique to each campus so they could promote this event from their campus. Well, in real time, we could see which campuses weren't doing the promotion. If we'd said everybody, hey, everybody, just point everybody to charis.edu, and we would never be able to tell how things are going. But because I gave each campus its own dedicated URL with their name in it, we could in real time see that Orlando wasn't participating, or, Kansas City, those guys aren't really doing there. And so it's a great tool also to give you real-time analytics on how things are going. So again, these are two quick little tools that I think are very, very expensive, but give you a lot of value right away. You may think you've written the best post in the world, and if you can't measure how successful the click-throughs are, you have no idea how you're doing, right? So this for a couple bucks, you're in the money here. That's it, Kristen. How about that?
Oh, awesome.
So
well, you're not off the hook yet, Brian. I've got some questions for you, but go ahead and share a little bit about your book.
It's not a big deal. It's actually 2013 now, so it's fairly evergreen. But I wrote this for C levels who just want to know how to use social media. What does it mean to know? We've got some good case studies in there. I had an interesting experience at the Hilton property. It's in there, I think it's a quick read. At the very least, you can take your coffee cup, put on top of it, and it won't stain your table. But it's at Amazon, and I hope it's interesting. I'm working on number 2 right now, so it's on its way.
That's great. Well, I've got a couple of questions for you. Those that have engaged with us, I ask that you use the next couple of minutes to maybe ask us and certainly ask Brian what might be the burning question for you. But I want to maybe take a step back, Brian, and just say, I think that a challenge you've addressed kind of throughout this is there's sort of this clutter and noise that we're trying to cut through, right, with our marketing efforts. And I think it seems like the more advanced things become, the more clutter and noise there is, and this experiential piece or brand activation really kind of helps cut through that, distinguishes you. So I love that hint. I guess my question for you would be, for that smaller nonprofit that's out there that's thinking, okay, I could probably do something about this, Instagram piece, or I could maybe even make a brand activation experience. What would you tell them are their most important kind of 1 or 2, maybe 3 marketing pieces that they really need to have in place? So these, that brand activation piece maybe is not the pillar by which they build their marketing effort, nor is their Instagram. But what would be, from your opinion or your perspective, the couple to 3 things that are really critical for them?
Well, I hope this isn't too simple, but I keep running across it. So, one is take a look at your landing pages, take a look at your website. I'm amazed at how many sites I go to for 501c3s that after spending some time there, I still can't figure out what you do. And keep it above the fold. There's good information that needs to be above the fold on the page. If I can't really figure out in 2 to 3 seconds who you are and what you are, that it's not, something's not working right. There's something not communicating right. So I'd encourage you to ensure that this is an old technology, right? Websites started in 93, 94. So put some fresh eyes on it and say, hey, if you landed here, didn't know who we are, could we convey our vision to you in 2 to 3 seconds? And more importantly, are we conveying enough where you'll want to click through and learn more about what we do? Whether it be persecuted Christians or water or souls or essential oils, whatever it is.
Right.
So that's number one. Communication, I think consistency is key. Whether you choose 1, 2, or 3 platforms, let's say Facebook or a blog or email blasts or email drip campaigns, be consistent. Well, this is a little bit inside baseball. I produce the podcast for Nick Vujicic out of California, and Nick's a great brother. And if you don't know him, Nick speaks to people around the world. He was actually born without arms and legs, and great man of God. And so produces podcast, but because of his schedule, we couldn't keep it consistent. We'd have a week off and a week on, a week off, and it was difficult to build an audience because we weren't consistent. So, number 2 is whatever you do, be consistent. If you promise a word of inspiration every Monday via email, be sure and send it out. Don't do iffy. Don't forget to do that. And then I think maybe our last point would be, Kristen, maybe about honesty and transparency. Possibly more than anybody else, the nonprofit or the NGO needs to sound like a human and not a machine. And take a look at your language. Take a look at your style guide. The words that define who you are, and I would encourage you to just be human and be real. Some of the big brands have gotten some success recently by being snarky and having a first person approach. Wendy's hamburgers is one. Mr. Peanut, I noticed he did something here recently, but they use things like I, me, today, things like that. And you may not want to do that, but be real and personable. And then adding on to that is answer and relate. If someone asks you a question on any of these platforms, you need to be able to watch it. If someone asks you a question at 10 p.m. at night, hey, where do I donate? You probably should have somebody watching that so you can answer that. I know a bank here recently that had some issues, and I had a friend who was trying to communicate with them via social media. They never answered them. And so it just got worse. Like, really? Like you have this channel, you're not using it. So if you do have the channel, be sure and use it, and don't forget to answer and respond and reply and interact with that audience. So there's 3.5 things.
That's good. I like it. And simple, really. Those transcend budget.
Start there. Yeah.
Budget, they transcend cause. They are just basic principles that sometimes I think we even take for granted. They're things, honestly, that in the consumer world we take for granted because they are done well for the most part. And in the nonprofit world, sometimes I think we compromise those just because you don't notice it until it's gone. And then your donors do recognize it, because whether you like it or not, they are the consumer also. So they are interacting with you online, just like they're interacting with whomever that, Amazon online and whomever else that they engage with. So it's important that you are.
I've gotten such better experience with corporate America social media than faith-based, unfortunately, many, many times. Super quick story. Anybody use Spotify out there? Spotify is my go-to music resource. I love Spotify. And American Airlines actually, any American flyers, they have a boarding playlist and a landing playlist. So when you board an American Airlines plane, they have music curated for boarding. And they have 8 or 9 songs that rotate through every month. And when you land, they put on music again. It's a different playlist, and it's for landing, 8 or 9 songs. Well, I guess I love the music. And so I was on a Spotify, and I noticed that they published their playlist to Spotify. You can subscribe to the American Airlines boarding playlist. I'm like, this is great. And so every month I would subscribe to the new playlist, and I felt like I was on vacation all the time, right? So, but in their naming convention of the playlist, you couldn't see what month it was. So it's a American Airlines playlist, and then Spotify would truncate it, and you wouldn't see June 2009, or does that make sense? It would truncate the month, and I'm like, I love this, but I can't tell which of the most recent playlists. So I tweeted American Airlines. I said, hey, big fan, whatever. And I love your playlists, but I can't see. Within a half hour, they tweeted me back, and they actually fixed all the playlists.
Wow.
And I felt like a rock star. I'm like, I'm a nobody. And I thought, well, what good customer service at that moment that I received for a stupid little thing, but I still talk about it. And so if we could all have that level of customer service, no matter where we are, no matter how small or big, I think we'd win some people over. And then you tell 50 people like I'm doing right now. So
yeah, that's great. Hey, thanks, Brian. I think that this information has been fresh. It's been different. It's not maybe what folks were expecting from a typical kind of marketing 101 presentation. So you're providing some great new ideas. Thanks for the case studies. I think we always learn better from examples sometimes than just from presentations. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kristen.
So for the rest of you, I hope today has been helpful. We will continue this webinar series. I want to let you know there will be some follow-up pieces to this. So you'll get an email tomorrow. You'll be able to share this with others. You'll be able to find it on our website, as you can with all of our webinars that we do. So always know that those are available online. You can go to ministry services, who we serve, to ministries, scroll down, you'll find webinars. And then if you don't see the one you're looking for, just click on view more and you will find this one by mid-morning tomorrow morning. Our next webinar will be on June 26th. We'll talk with Evan Lang, who is our VP of Gift Planning here at the Signet Tree. And we're going to be talking about expanding giving opportunities, expanding our donors' giving. Did you know that 90% of America's wealth is held in non-cash assets, but 80% of the gifts that our nonprofits receive are from cash? So we continue to fish in that 10% pool or that 10% pond when actually the potential lies in the 90%. So we're going to kind of talk about that and how we might equip you to do that better. All right, so what did you learn today? I'm guessing there's going to be some painting for Instagram walls going on in some of your locations, or perhaps some brainstorming sessions about how do we engage our donors in an experience. So I would encourage those conversations. Perhaps you're an executive director that's engaged today, and you can actually now engage with other people in your organization, whether it's your marketing department or your development department or your program department, and think about how you can take this to the next level, how you can better market not only your cause, but the experience behind it, and engage your donors. All right, I think that's it. Be sure to check the ministry Facebook page. Brian has very generously agreed to share some chapters from his book, so I'll make those available for you later this week. And then, like we said, surely follow me on LinkedIn and then also on our Facebook group. All right, that's it. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your time today. It's been a joy and certainly challenging. I've got a page full of notes, so I hope that our listeners did as well.
So if we go to your website and we give you our email address, you'll send us those notes, right?
That's right. Thank you for adding to my to-do list, Brian. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I will tell you, those of you who are engaged already will receive some of these notes in an email, and that is a great add, Brian. We will follow up on that and make that happen. All right, I will see the rest of you back here on June 26th for our next webinar on giving. Brian, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, guys.